Is it love, or are you in love with the idea of love? Today, we're talking about something that almost everyone has experienced at some point in their lives. It's that one person you simply can't stop thinking about. The one who completely takes over your mind. Maybe you've only known them for a few weeks. Maybe you've been trying to move on for months. Maybe they're an ex. Maybe there's someone you barely dated. Or maybe there's someone you never really had at all. Whatever the situation, the question is usually the same. Why can't I let them go? We usually assume the answer's simple. It must be love. After all, if someone occupies your thoughts every day, if you miss them constantly, if your emotions depend on whether they text you or not, surely that's what love feels like, right? But what if it isn't? Today, we want to explore a psychological concept that explains why we sometimes become emotionally attached to people who aren't actually right for us. It's called limerence, and understanding it might completely change the way you see attraction, heartbreak, dating, and even yourself. Hi, all! Welcome to another episode of Love Hacks. I'm Renee, and today we're going to be talking about the idea of love. Thinking you're in love, but actually you're in love with the idea of love. All right, so let's kick this off. Now, not everything that feels intense is love, folks. All right? And speaking from the heart, I can tell you I'm quite intense. But you can't say that's love, all right? One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that intensity equals love. The stronger the feelings, the more convinced we become that we've found the one. Oh, and so many songs. She's the one. Ironically, I was just about to watch a documentary on Alec Baldwin's stalker. Now, I'm not going to get into that, but I found it funny, right? Obviously, the stalker, well, in this case, is a woman, and I won't disclose the name, I don't even know it, but she obviously thought that Alec Baldwin was the one, right? So, yeah, a lot of people are like, she's the one, he's the one. However, intensity doesn't prove compatibility. It doesn't prove emotional maturity. And it certainly doesn't prove that someone is capable of building a healthy relationship with you. Think about it. Fear is intense. Anxiety is intense. Jealousy is intense. I just saw something on that as well. Obsession is intense. Our emotions don't measure how healthy something is. They simply measure how activated our nervous system is. That's why so many people confuse anxiety with chemistry or emotional dependency with love. Limerence is different from simply finding someone attractive. It's different from admiration. It's different from genuinely loving someone. It's becoming emotionally consumed by the possibility of someone, not necessarily because of who they really are, but because of what your mind imagines they could become. And I think most of us, I'm speaking for the adults, okay, but teenagers too. Kids, well, they're look, but I mean, it could happen. I mean, I'm not going to go down that path, but We often meet someone and we say, "Hey, if this person and I, we got on really well. We started on the right foot, there was chemistry, which could be anxiety. And they have a few hiccups in their background, but hey, they can become someone better." In the movie in my head, the Oscar the Oscar awarded movie in my head. Sorry, Oscar winning, because it still hasn't won an award. But man, these movies that I make in my head, whoa, right? A lot of us make our movies in our heads and we think they're Oscar worthy, right? And creating person, a person's personality, like a person but you fantasize about, well, I mean, that movie, Meet Joe Black with Brad Pitt. Not going to give away the plot. It's old, yes, but it's a beautiful movie. But there is some relevance, right? For those of you who have seen it. So, yeah, we tend to idolize or idealize people that we are attracted to, whether they're artists or not, or real people, right? But that doesn't mean that they're right for you, even if they correspond. And you see, that's why I'm leading into falling in love with the story because, as I said, I mentioned films. Well, films need to have stories to work, right? Again, if you guys checked my head, man, I think you'd be quite entertained. I have a bunch of movies in my head that I created, okay? And I'm sure you guys do too. And I'm sure I'd need a whole bucket of popcorn to get through them because, well, several buckets of popcorn, right? And one of the most dangerous things our minds do is fill in the missing information. Fill in the gaps. Oh, I don't know. I mean, oh, he's divorced. Oh, but why? Do I know the reason why? No, I don't. But I can say, oh, well, maybe because his wife was not a very nice wife, or maybe he was no longer attracted to her, or you start making up things to explain and justify them, right? You meet someone, you have great chemistry, a few incredible conversations, maybe one amazing date. Suddenly your imagination starts doing the rest. You imagine traveling together, living together, growing old together, meeting each other's families, meeting each other's social circles. But the reality is, you barely know how they handle conflict. You don't know how they communicate during difficult moments. You don't know whether they're emotionally available. You don't know if your values even align. But your mind fills those gaps with hope. And slowly, you stop falling for the person. You start falling for the story, the script. Again, I go back to the movies or a good book, right? I can mention a few. Well, Wuthering Heights, which, by the way, I'm not a fan of the remake, but the book glorifies the supposed protagonist, and that's Heathcliff. Well, the two protagonists, Heathcliff and Kathy, and they were very imperfect people, in my opinion. No, I mean I love that book, but um, Emily Bronte sort of glorified them in the way they were, even though they weren't perfect. And you start making a similar movie, or maybe you're going to make a movie like Fellow Travelers. The book is the accurate bit. The series is amazing, but the series does glorify the characters way more and extends it. That's thanks to um Ron Niceweiner, the guy who wrote Philadelphia, the movie. I'm not going to go down the film path, but what I'm getting at is that you see all these films or series popping out from my head, and then you or your friend could have their own movie going on right now. You fall in love with the story. You know that there's gonna be tension in that, but you have hope, right? And while you have that hope, you might even go a little blind, right? Because sometimes we aren't in love with who someone is. We're in love with who we imagine they could be. And those are two very different things. Very different. So that leads me into okay, we mentioned hope. So why is uncertainty so addictive? Why do we want to be in that state of panic or semi panic? It's very interesting. Why can't we just, like, when we find the person that matches us, why can't we just relax? Well, some people do. They ease into it. Those are the healthy people. But a lot of people, like, they're in happy marriages and yet they go off out on a limb and then start cheating. And they say because they're bored. And then they create tension in the home because if the partner finds out, oof, some partners put up with it, but most don't. Um, and when there's no marriage or anything, when you're just dating, uh, uncertainty, but like, okay, the guy or the girl what's ups you, whatever, you start talking. Hey, have a nice day. You too. And then you might start thinking, oh my God, they said, have a nice day. And I said, you too. Oh my God, he remembered to say, have a nice day. He sent me an emoji with hearts popping out from a cat. Oh my God, I think he's really into me. People, he could have sent that same message to his mother, to maybe other people he's seeing, right? One thing almost every limerent situation has in common is uncertainty. Think about relationships that leave you constantly wondering, do they like me? Why haven't they texted? Why were they so affectionate yesterday but distant today? Why did that message ring me, or what did that message really mean? Did I do something wrong? Should I reach out? Should I wait? Folks, notice what your brain is doing. It's trying to solve a puzzle. And that's exactly what keeps you emotionally attached. Because certainty allows your mind to relax. Uncertainty keeps your mind working. Oh, and it's exhausting. And, well, I gotta say it. That's why mixed signals are so powerful. Not because they're romantic, no, because they're psychologically addictive. If you guys haven't been through this, well, I mean, I'm not going to give names or anything, but of course I've lived this. Mixed signals. And I admit, when I was young, I was into that. Even though I had a steady boyfriend, I did not cheat on him or anything, but I was a bit bored. And I guess I learnt it from books and movies. Again, we go back to Wuthering Heights, Fellow Travelers. I can name a bunch of stories, you know, um, or plays even. The Phantom of the Opera by Gaston Leroux, remade as a play, a musical play by Andrew Lloyd Webber. I mean, those three stories right there. And check the three of them, okay? They all have a lot of tension and obsession and uncertainty. Yes? Now we're getting into anxiety, right? People often describe love with physical symptoms, butterflies in their stomachs. Oh, be still, my beating heart, racing heart. Thinking about someone all day, daydreaming, checking your phone every few minutes, or they were on, but now they're not. Feeling amazing when they text, feeling miserable when they disappear. The problem is, those are also symptoms of anxiety. Our nervous system doesn't always know the difference. Someone who is emotionally consistent usually makes us feel calm. Someone who constantly disappears and reappears often creates excitement, you know, like a ghost. Because they create uncertainty. They're here, then they're not, then they're here again, then they're not. And uncertainty activates our brain. Then, when they finally text us, we feel relief. Many people mistake that relief for love. Oh, he does love me after all. Yeah, it's been a week since he last texted you, and then last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, he decided to send you a, "Hey, baby, how you doing?" And you're melting in your pants. All right? But relief isn't love. It's simply the temporary disappearance of anxiety. Healthy love shouldn't require emotional recovery every few days. And I am going to emphasize that. That's why I got out of my last thing. I'm not going to call it a relationship. And Michaela and I have mentioned this in the past. Healthy love is not going to have you thinking about that person or about what they're doing all day long. And you're not going to be checking your phone constantly. You know why? Because you're going to be at peace. All right? When you're constantly checking your phone and they did, they didn't, they did, they did, they did, and then they disappeared. That is a mind game. All right? And you have to learn to tell the difference. Now, I have seen, I watch quite a few programs, interviews of people with people I am interested in. And I can't remember what actor said this. Maybe it was Orlando Bloom. I can't really remember, but he said, "I'm in love with love." And at the time he was dating not Katy Perry, Kate Bosworth. "I'm in love with love." Now, that is a ball of nonsense. Sorry, no offense to the actor, right? But there are people that think all that anxiety, all the tension in that is love or playing, or if they're the player, they like playing around and they call that love as well. And that's just infatuation. I mean, have you ever noticed how some people seem to fall deeply in love over and over again? Every new relationship is quote unquote different. Every new partner is quote unquote the one. Every breakup feels like they'll never recover until someone else appears. Then suddenly, it's true love again. Maybe they're not falling in love with each new person. Maybe they're falling in love with the experience of falling in love. Ah, yes, everything smells better and days seem better and the job is better and you can tolerate a lot of things when the food tastes wonderful. It's a drug even, I mean the love drug. Oh, because it's true love. Oh, I'm on a high. So many songs, all-time high by Rita. We're an all-time high. That song is really old, but it's a James Bond song, Rita Coolidge. But oh yeah, it just sounds like an eternal orgasm, right? Yeah, because there's excitement, there's fantasy, the emotional high, and again, the hope. And yeah, sometimes people aren't searching for compatibility. They're searching for intensity. And those are very different goals. Yeah. So here's when, okay, you're on an all time high, whatever, and you're thinking that this gent or this lady is just out of this world. That's when you run the risk of the danger of idealization. One of the clearest signs of limerence is idealization. All right. You emphasize someone's best qualities. For example, oh, he's a really good father. Wow, he's perfect. While minimizing everything else. Yeah, he told me he cheated on his ex, but he probably had a reason to do so. Your friends notice the red flags. Hey, uh, let's call him Bob. Hey, Bob, he kind of drinks a lot. What? No, he doesn't drink. So you don't notice that he's a big alcoholic, for example. Someone says, "You know what? They're inconsistent." And you answer, "Oh, come on, cut them some slack. They've been hurt." Someone says, "They never prioritize you." You answer, "They're just scared." Someone says, "They don't communicate." And you answer, "They're emotionally unavailable." All right? Like, come on, cut Bob some slack. Little by little, you become their defense attorney. Not because the evidence supports it, because you need the story to stay alive. Because if the fantasy disappears, the possibility disappears too. So, yeah, I mean, apologies to any Bobs out there. I just used that name now. Okay. Could be Johnson, it could be Maria. I mean, it doesn't matter. Gosh, Johnson. Okay, but what I'm getting at is that if you're that into that person or you're idealizing them, uh, you really are not going to notice the truth. You just don't want to see it. You go blind. There's a saying in Spanish. What is it? Love is blind, but the neighbors aren't. Well, it's also the friends. If you have true friends, they're going to see these things. And because they love you, or family members, they're going to tell you. And you might get upset over that, but you know what? It is what it is, and you're just not seeing it because you're in love with the story, with the movie in your head, right? Yeah, this is my Brad Pitt. This is my ticket to happiness. Mhm. And maybe Bob is a tremendous alcoholic and is stingy as hell because you're always buying him his liquor. I mean, I'm just giving examples, right? Or something as light as maybe Bob's a womanizer and you're like, "No, but he's gonna be different with me." He was a womanizer, he cheated on his wife, they got divorced, but with me, it's gonna be different because Bob loves me. And every time you go out, he turns his head 360 degrees to check out every woman on the street. And you're like, "Nah, he's just Bob." Again, put on your glasses. Or Maria. Maria is, a very disorganized person. You like neatness, your house is very clean and neat. And Maria, when you see her and go to her house, you see like underpants on the lamps and old food in the sink, in the kitchen sink, and cigarettes all over the place. And she looks great, but her home is not that good. But you're like, you know what? She's gonna change with me because when she moves in with me, we're gonna make a deal on the cleanliness. Guess what? Maria is not gonna change. All right? She likes dirty, and if she moves in with you, your house will get dirty too. I mean, she's not gonna learn as an adult how to keep her house neat. That should have been done when she was a kid. All right? So there you go. But you don't want to see it because you love Maria and you love the sex with Maria. Right? Now, obviously, those of us who can see the red flags, well, we get out of these things faster. But some people just can't. They're more vulnerable. I mean, limerence can happen to anyone, but some people are more vulnerable, especially people who struggle with anxious attachment, people who grew up having to earn love, people who never felt emotionally secure. When love has always been inconsistent, consistency can actually feel unfamiliar. Someone calm may seem boring. Someone emotionally unavailable may feel exciting. Oh, it's a challenge, Not because they're healthier, because they activate something familiar inside us. Sometimes we're not attracted to what's healthy. We're attracted to what our nervous system recognizes. And that's a hard truth. But once you see it, it's incredibly freeing. Because once you recognize the pattern, you can stop blaming yourself and grow from it. Those of us who aren't, well, you know what? Good for them. I'm glad they had the security they needed, but some of us didn't. And that's okay too. It's not that we're bad people. We're more vulnerable. But again, as adults, adults, we can say it both ways. We can learn from our mistakes and not blame ourselves 24/7. Oh, he left because of me or no. Why did I give so much? No. Because you're human. But you do not even need to forgive yourself. All right? You made a mistake. You're human. Right? And you were vulnerable. There's nothing you can do about that. It happened, and that's it. You got to learn to trust yourself again, to give yourself some space, and to not keep falling in love with the idea of love, meaning don't get a replacement thinking that you're going to fall in love with that person. Maybe you do, and I do know a few people like that. Never works. I mean, it's like the monkey grabbing branches, swinging from one tree to another. Complete instability. No. When the branch breaks, you fall, you got some wounds, you got to recover. You don't go swinging from branch to branch. You're not a monkey, okay? Even though they say we're related, but I'd say we're closer to apes. Well, I'm not saying anything new. Now, something I really want to clarify here is that even if you talk about them, and it's not that you're not chasing them, okay? You're not chasing them. You're chasing what they represent, a moment or moments in your life where they were there. And this may be the most important part of today's episode. Many people think they're obsessed with one specific person, but often that's not entirely true. They're obsessed with what that person represents: validation, being chosen, feeling worthy, finally being enough. A lot of us think, wow, if this person chooses me, then maybe I really am lovable. It's that validation again, if you're vulnerable to that. So when that breaks or something goes wrong, the rejection hurts a lot. That's why rejection hurts so much. Not only because we lose someone, because we lose the meaning we attached to that person, you know? And sometimes that meaning was never really about them. It was about us. And yes, I've seen many cases, I've lived it as well, where I am upset, I block the person, or I have been blocked too. But and of course it hurts. But you know what I did? I blocked them. And I applaud myself here, folks. They blocked me, I blocked them. I'm not there checking, and that's really hard to do, guys. I mean, some of us, like, investigate the person's social media. You can cry. I know I've been hard before, but no. When you're upset or you're heartbroken or you think you're heartbroken, it's because of that loss of validation. But just know that you're good enough on your own. And I know that sounds like a cliche, but you are good enough on your own. Think of all the other people who appreciate you, who genuinely love you. They're not conditioning you. They love you for who you are, not what you represent. And that's something, people, whether they criticize you about your physique or your job or your status or whatever, those people, well, they're critical. We have a critical nature in general, but the people that really love us, they'll love us whether we're tall, short, fat, thin, black, white, Asian, any race. They love us for us. That's why we can form strong friendships, strong family ties, and not in that particular order. So, in a partner, you should expect the same, in the sense they love you for who you are, not what you look like, not how much money you have or what job you have or whether you're friends with the high society. They love you for you. And that's something that a lot of people still don't get, and they make the mistake and they're afraid of being alone, and they actually develop feelings rather quickly for yet another person because they're looking for that validation. Then it blows up in their face. These constant relationship people, one after another, after another, after another, instead of saying, hey, I gotta take a step back and realize what I'm worth and who values me truly, right?
Looking for real conversations about love, connection, and everything in between? Listen to Love Hacks. Honest, heartfelt, and in four languages: English, Espanol, Francais, and Portuguese. Find your version wherever you get your podcast. See you soon.
Now, those people are going to be compatible with you, whether friends or family members or a new partner. But I want to clarify that limerence doesn't require compatibility. That's what's so tricky. All right. So here's one of the biggest differences between love and limerence. Love grows by getting to know someone over time. Limerence often grows despite not truly knowing them. You can become obsessed with someone who's emotionally unavailable, someone who doesn't share your values, someone who constantly disappoints you, someone who's completely incompatible. Because limerence doesn't need compatibility. It only needs possibility, only the little opening, the attraction. That's why people sometimes spend years trying to make the impossible relationships work. Not because the relationship is healthy, no. Because the fantasy refuses to die, the idea of that perfect union. But if someone's constantly disappointing you, and you're still into them, and you're spending days of your life, years perhaps, conforming to that, or maybe you just started seeing someone for 6 months and you feel, "Oh my god, I'm in love with them," and they, they're not faithful to you. What if your values I think most of us want our partners to be faithful, or they disclose something about themselves. Going back to the Bob example. Yeah, I drink, rum day and night about 5 times a week, but I go to work, I do my job, I send alimony to my ex, and yeah, I cheated on her, but hey, stuff happens. Sometimes you can't help it. And you're listening to all this as Bob is talking. And if you're in a state of limerence, you're like, oh, well, it's going to be different with me. It's not. It'll happen again, except now you're the new woman. And Bob will continue having his rum every morning, day and night, whatever. But you're in it. You enjoy it because you're not in love, you're in limerence. And that fantasy is still in your head. Now, sometimes it's hard to tell the difference between the two. Just ask yourself a few questions, whether it's limerence or not. Do you constantly replay conversations in your head? Do you search for hidden meaning behind every text? Do you feel emotionally dependent on whether they respond? Have you imagined a future that isn't based on reality? Do you ignore behaviors that would normally concern you? Have your friends noticed things you refuse to see? Does your mood depend on whether they give you attention? If several of those sound familiar, well then, it's certainly not love. It's most likely limerence. Now, I just want to start wrapping up by saying I want to share with you what healthy love feels like. Healthy love usually feels calm. Okay? It's more consistent, more predictable, no mind games. That doesn't mean it's boring. It means your nervous system isn't constantly trying to survive. Here's a bit of science and health, physical health, emotional health, physical health, too. They're both important. With healthy love, you don't spend every day wondering where you stand. Okay? You don't have to decode every message. You don't, you don't have to earn someone's affection. You don't have to convince someone to choose you. Healthy love isn't built on confusion. Quite the contrary. It's built on clarity. 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 Not confusion. So, folks, I'm going to leave you with a final reflection. If there's one idea I'd like you to remember today, it's this. Not everything that feels powerful is love, or is extremely intense, or brings you a lot of anxiety. Sometimes it is anxiety. Sometimes it's loneliness. And sometimes it's a deep desire to be chosen. Just be aware. Reflect. Talk to yourself. I'm not saying sound all crazy. No. Have a chat with your, really, if you need to, and I do this, what are the pros and cons? And start with compatibility. Am I really compatible with this person who gives me a lot of joy, but at the same time gives me a lot of anxiety? Do we share a lot of things? Do we have a lot of things in common? Or is it just the great sex, according to myself? It could be a bunch of things. Analyze yourself and don't be intolerant of yourself. Quite the contrary. Learn to love yourself and simultaneously protect yourself. Anyhow, guys, well, I'm Renee. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and I wish you all a great week. Take care. Bye.
If this episode resonated with you, make sure to like the video and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.